Hi, Rafi.
Hi, hold
We're
on.
ju- we're just going live here. That's fine. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever you are. It's Sunday, April 11th, 2021. So Rafi was kind enough to join us. I think the last time he was on with us was about a month ago, actually, 4 weeks ago. And I decided to start a little earlier because it's 9 o'clock is a bit late for him. And also today, to be honest, I want to watch the golf, the Masters later on. So it gives me a bit more time. Hi, Rafi. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. Yeah. Get the weather is improving here a little bit. It's still a bit chilly, but I think it's going to get a bit warmer next week. And tomorrow they're finally going to open quite a few things here. We're going to have the pubs and restaurants. They're going to reopen, but you're going to have to sit outside. Hairdressers and barbers are going to open again. So I think I need a trim. I try to cut it myself a few weeks ago, but it's not the same really.
Yeah, I've given myself haircuts for since I graduated college, I think.
Okay, that's good. So you're used to it. I'm not. I mean, I don't know how much I'm gonna have to wait tomorrow. So everyone, thank you for being here again, like every Sunday. I did, as I said, I started an hour earlier today. I hope that's fine. It's actually not a bad time, actually, and it's nice that it's still almost. We got still some light outside. Today we're going to talk about why there's no economic, you can't have economic freedom or human freedom for that matter without sound money. Maybe Rafi wants to touch upon that subject before I give my opinion as well.
Well, I mean, economic freedom is just freedom to live. I mean, we attach different adjectives to liberty, but everything you do is economic. Everything you make is a choice. There's nothing that you do that isn't a choice of your own resources. Taking a step in a walk is stepping in the most efficient way that you can to accomplish whatever goal you have. Every decision is an economic decision. So, and the way humans divvy up resources is with money. That's how we do it. And sound money just means money that you're not stealing, that you're not stealing from. I mean, this is a revelation that I had, I think just a few days ago, that we make this big mistake. Libertarians, Austrian economists, people who just advocate liberty and just want human freedom, we make a mistake and we say that currency or money is fiat. There's such a thing as a fiat currency, and the way I used to think about it is that what gives a fiat currency its power, or its value. Sorry, its value. And I used to think to myself that the answer is their threat to steal from you. The fact that they demand taxes be paid in their fiat currency is what gives it its value. But then I realized something that is impossible. Right? It's impossible, because if that were true, hyperinflation wouldn't be possible. There'd be no such thing as a currency dying, because a state always has the power to tell you to pay it in pay its taxes. I mean, they can always do that. They can always threaten you, but that's not what gives the currency its value. What gives the currency its value is that it is linked back to the original money, which is gold or silver, because that's how human exchange started, with those as media of exchange. So what is the point, you could ask, of a government demanding that you pay taxes in its currency? The point is, what they're saying is, we have this currency, it is a gold substitute, and the fact that we are making you pay money in this gold substitute means that we demand the ability to print it and inflate it to be able to steal from you without you noticing. That's why they're demanding it. That's why they make legal tender. But what gives it its value in the first place is that it is a gold substitute. And here's one very quick example from Israel. Right, in 1984 there was hyperinflation. The Bank of Israel has no gold. None, zero. So we have the new shekel. There was hyperinflation in 1984, and then Israel made a new currency, the new shekel. Now, how did that work? How is that even possible? You can't just invent a currency fiat and say it's just worth this amount, that amount, and then now start exchanging goods and services. It doesn't work. It's impossible. You have to, because the reason that you know how much money you need today is because you knew yesterday. And the reason you knew yesterday is because you knew the day before. It always indexes back to some array of prices that existed in the past. It always has to, or else there's no exchange. So what did they do? They changed the way the Bank of Israel operates. Then the Bank of Israel bought a bunch of dollars, right? And they had a bunch of dollars, and they indexed the new shekel to the dollars that they had. And they said, okay, now it's indexed to the dollar, and the dollar has value because it used to be indexed to gold. It always goes back to that, which, there's no fiat currency. There's only more and relatively less inflated gold and silver substitutes. That's what there is.
Yes, and I think the best way to also look at money and currency and how things evolved is to do the regression theory analysis of the Austrian school. And it's such a simple way to explain to people. And it's amazing that it's never taught in schools. You can teach it to sixth graders or eighth graders. It's not rocket science. So I always say that government, they've hijacked the monetary system. They hijacked money, like Rothbard said, what has government done to our money? So I think the way to look at money is that it's the most marketable commodity. And through trial and error, people chose many things over the years. They chose salt. They chose conches. They chose cigarette in post World War II Germany, and they've chosen, of course, gold and silver for the last 2,500 years. And I think the only way that governments can keep this fiat currency scam going is also through the legal tender laws, because legal tender laws force you to pay your taxes and to pay all debts with that fiat currency. And if they allowed a free market in money, they wouldn't exist. Central banks and governments would have to compete to borrow money. They wouldn't be able to tax as much as well, because, and I think, with the printing of fiat currency and legal tender laws, they impose upon us like an inflation tax, which is an even more insidious tax, because very few people understand it. So I think what governments don't like either is barter, even though barter, of course, does not help develop a modern economy where you have specialization. But I think that's the road we're going into. It's not going to be permanent, but I think we could see barter take over. What do you think?
Well, the people who don't have money, I mean, if gold and silver are money, they still are money. You have to understand what you're doing when you're taking a pound or you're taking a dollar. You are taking a gold substitute and you are buying something with it. So in the end, you're still purchasing now with gold and silver. You just don't realize it. People don't realize it. So the people who don't have real money, they only have money substitutes like dollars or pounds or shekels wherever you live. And that gold or silver substitute can no longer be exchanged for any amount of real money. So yeah, they're going to have to barter. Or they're going to have to find someone with gold and silver and offer their services. If they can mow a lawn, if they can build a house, if they can do whatever they can do, whatever they know how to do, they're going to have to find somebody or something with real money and say, hire me. That's what they're going to have to do, because it's not like real money is going to disappear. Real money is the same. It's here. We have it. It's just we're just being forced to use inflated substitutes. And when those inflated substitutes die, we'll go back to a real money economy, because there will be no other choice. I mean, they'll try their resets, but they're not going to work, because you cannot reset cannot reset a money substitute without any backing. It's not possible.
Yeah, and that's why I just read a story out. I think it was on Zero Hedge just before this afternoon that China, the digital currency in China, is going to have a sell-by date. So if you don't spend it quick enough, I mean, what crazy world we live in. And I just wanted to show the viewers because a 20-pound Bank of England note. And why is that important? Well, because about almost 20 years ago, I was at work. I went out for lunch. I worked in the city of London, and then I bought some lunch and went back to the office. And I was putting some of my change back in my wallet, and for some reason, I took one of these out, a 20-pound note, and it's still. And I saw this. It still says, "I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of 20 pounds." So this is when this was a substitute for gold. They had that promise right here. You can't read it. Maybe if I put it closer, you can see it there. But so you could take that to any bank before 1914, before World War I, or I don't think you could take it to the Bank of England because Bank of England, you couldn't have your own personal account there. But if you could take it to Barclays or NatWest or HSBC, they'd give you 20 gold sovereigns, which is just under a quarter of an ounce of gold. So nowadays, for a sovereign, you need over 300 pounds. So it just goes to show. And this is when I saw this, I told myself, promise to pay what? So I have called the Bank of England a few times, and they always say that what that means is that you can take one of these old notes and exchange it for a new one. And I always ask, why don't you put that on? This note may be a damaged note, may be exchanged for a new one. And it's amazing that very few, they hide it in plain sight and people don't realize. But if you look at the Euro banknotes, they don't even have anything written on it. They just have the euro. They have euro written in different languages and the number 5 or 10 and ECB. They don't even, and the Federal Reserve note, they don't have the promise to pay the bearer, but they say that it's legal tendered for all public, private and public debts, right?
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of the level of insanity across almost all the world and every aspect of life in this past year. I was thinking, like, we look back at this period 20 years from now, 30 years from now, whenever this ends, and let's say I'm telling my grandkids, what happened in 2020, 2021, what happened? And I said, well, I'm imagining telling the story and thinking, well, there was a pandemic and there was this disease and everybody got really scared of it. So nobody went to work and everybody locked down. But then, the central banks, they saved everything because they printed trillions of dollars and everyone was rich and everything was fine. Is that how it's going to end?
No.
No, that sounds ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, if that were possible, Zimbabwe and Venezuela and Weimar Germany would be the richest countries in the world. You wouldn't have had all the troubles in Germany. Just wanted to share here with you guys. Yesterday, I went to my local coin and metal dealer. So there he is. That's Mr. Morris, Peter Morris in Bromley. His shop looks really disorganized, but I can guarantee you it's an organized chaos. So here, I bought some of these old. They were a bit more numismatic. This is old shillings, which is a little less than a quarter, but they're all 925 silver. And I also bought this one yesterday. I'd never bought a 1 ounce silver Krugerrand, and they're really nice, beautiful coins. Let me show you. I've got it here. I've never seen such a nice silver coin, 1 ounce Krugerrand. I mean, I've got
a whole bunch of those in a lot waiting for me to pick up in June.
Yeah, they're really. I think it's the nicest silver coin I've seen. And I know my silver coins. So yeah, Mr. Morris, he's not really. He's more like he's got clients, customers that go and sell the coins. So I will call him or he'll call me and say, "Oh, someone just sold some silver. Do you want to buy them?" He doesn't really keep too much stock because he's more of a coin and metal numismatic guy, but he's keeping quite a bit of the 2021s. And he said all the 2021 coins are so expensive. The premium is still huge. There's still a lot of demand for silver. So it
So
hasn't stopped.
what's the premium in London on silver Krugerrands?
Well, this one year I had to pay I paid 35 pounds and the spot price is just above 18.
35 pounds. Wow. I got a monster box for I think $36 a coin when
Yeah.
the spot was 27.50, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't buy that many. I bought more of these shillings. But the other thing I wanted to show the viewers, I think there's two really important essays or articles that related to the topic that we're the headline of the live stream about gold, sound money, and the monetary system. The first one, many of you probably know, is Gold and Economic Freedom by Alan Greenspan. I think he still believes in that, even though he was the Fed chairman. Uh, I spoke to Ron Paul at the Mises Institute in '02 because I was there for the 20th anniversary of the Mises Institute, and Ron Paul said that he asked Alan Greenspan if he still believed in that, and he said he does, and he said the only reason we have a fiat currency system is that the public want it. Most of the public they think inflation is a good thing. They like the freebies from government. So and basically Greenspan said you have to give people what they want because it's a democracy, which is another bad system in my opinion. Because in a democracy, people can always be bought by their politicians. There's always the people who get kind of screwed by government. So
democracy isn't the system you want. You want justice, and justice is an equitable division of value through sound money. I don't understand what is going through Greenspan's head. I mean,
I think I'm not trying to defend him, but I think in the beginning, I think he thought that he could kind of replicate a gold standard under a fiat currency system, but that ended up really badly because he printed. He was the guy who started printing presses every time there was some small crisis, so that went out the window. So, but the other interesting article or essay was by Howard Buffett, who was Warren Buffett's father, and he was a congressman from Nebraska, and he wrote about human freedom rests on gold redeemable money. So there you go. I recommend those two. And he says here, is there a connection between human freedom and a gold redeemable money? At first glance, it would seem that money belongs to the world of economics and human freedom to political sphere. But when you recall that one of the first moves by Lenin, Mussolini, and Hitler was to outlaw individual ownership of gold, I would add FDR as well to that. You would begin to sense that there may be some connection between money redeemable in gold and the rare prize known as human liberty. So I'm going to put a couple links to these articles in the description of the recorded live stream later on. If you guys want to read it, we're not going to read through it, but I think if you haven't read these, I recommend it.
If we just take those that assertion that human freedom relies on money redeemable in gold, and we just tweak it a little bit, instead of thinking in terms of like, oh, now we have a fiat currency that's not redeemable in gold. If we just change the way we think about money just a tiny bit, And we admit now that the money that we have now is redeemable in gold because it can still be exchangeable in gold. The only difference is it can be exchangeable for less and less and less. And that's why you're getting poorer and poorer and poorer. There's no such thing as money without gold. There is no fiat currency. Again, it's something we have to change the way we think. And the thing is, do you want your real money stolen or do you not want it stolen? That's all it comes down to. It's all very simple once you got it lined up.
Yeah, Rafi, I watched a video a couple of days ago, or maybe yesterday, from, I don't know if you've heard of the Uneducated Economist. He's got quite a lot of followers, and he was driving around a lumber mill. I think I think he's from the Pacific Northwest in the US, and the lumber mill was full of lumber. He said, I've never seen this lumber mill with so much lumber, and there's supposed to be a shortage. Prices have tripled, lumber prices, in the last 12 months. And then I read some of the stuff you've written about hyperinflation, and you said in your latest report this weekend that you're reading When Money Dies, which I've read, about the Weimar hyperinflation, and how, yeah, and also in fiat money inflation, they talk about how farmers, producers, there's a point where they realize that the money, or the currency, really, the fiat currency, is really bad, and they're not going to stop inflating. That producers and people who produce something of value, they hold back because they don't want to exchange the valuable commodity or valuable products, or even service, for that matter, for a depreciating fiat. Can you touch upon that a little bit, and what you've seen aside from the lumber? I think the lumber could be a little bit of that. I saw that lumber, you can keep it for 20 years, it doesn't go bad. So it's a good store of value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, historically, I mean, if you look at one author that I would really recommend all your followers read is Frank Decoter, he's a sinologist, writes about China. So one of his best books is Mao's Great Famine, explaining how the Great Leap Forward really messed up everything. It was the biggest human holocaust in history. About maybe could be even 10 times the size of Hitler's Holocaust. So I mean, what happened there is the currency was dying, and the peasants. It happens in every communist society where the money is debauched, where the peasants don't want to farm anymore because they don't want the money, they want to keep the food. And then what the dictator does is he enslaves the farms and he forces them to feed the cities, and people die, and that's what happens. So when the money dies, people don't want to exchange goods for the money anymore. So the goods stop being exchanged and people die. But in the situation in America, in the United States especially, that relies so heavily on imports, their trading partners are going to stop giving them stuff for their dollars, and Americans are going to have a very hard time surviving, unfortunately. They're going to have to go back to a gold to a new money substitute that's fully gold backed, or they're not going to have food to eat. That's how simple it is. I mean, it's not that they don't know how to make food. It's that if you can't divide it, if you don't have a money that can divide resources equitably, doesn't matter how much people know, it doesn't matter how much technology you have the ability to produce. If you can't divide it equitably with a money that works, there aren't going to be any exchanges, and everything is going to stop. That's what happens. That's what's going to happen this time.
Is this the guy here, Frank Decoter?
Yes, that's him. Yeah.
So is it Mao's Great Famine you recommend, or all of
the
books?
It's a trilogy. He does one from the period of pre-1948, before the Communist Revolution, and then he has one on 58 to 62, and he has one on the Cultural Revolution afterwards. He has I think it's a series of 4 books, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you know what I think has been happening up until oh, here we go. We got a super chat here. Thank you, Chris Conman. Rafi, do you think the U.S. will ever go to a gold-backed currency?
Again, the dollar is a gold-backed currency. It's just an inflated one. yeah, gold is money. If once the money substitute of the dollar is no longer a money substitute because no one will take your dollars for any amount of gold, then gold is going to have to be money directly. And so if Fort Knox has any gold, then they're going to have to make a currency that can be exchanged for that gold. If there is no gold in Fort Knox and America doesn't really have any gold reserves because they already spent them, there's going to be a big problem. Big problem.
Yeah. Can I give my 2 cents on that? I think, yes, like Rafi said, the dollar is already gold backed, but at a increasing, the gold becomes more and more valuable and the fiat currency becomes less valuable. So I think maybe the question to ask, will the US Treasury again fix their debt to a fixed amount of gold and always, redeem in that fixed amount? Because I think that's what gives the currency its soundness, that you can always redeem it for a fixed weight of gold or silver. And I think that's what we need. But personally, I think so confidence is going to be lost so much that people are going to revert to just using silver and gold as money and as currency. Some people think that gold and silver aren't currency, but they are. They're also currency. If you can also use it as a currency. The paper was just like a convenience and a substitute, like you said. But if people lose confidence in the paper and the whole, government currency system, we could see a period where people are actually using the metals or maybe some cryptocurrencies as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, if we think about what's happening in a hyperinflationary economy, right? When currencies fall, exports tend to increase. You get this bump in exports. So in a hyperinflationary economy, you see exports just flying out of the country. But meaning that itself is a cure for the problem of not having a sound currency in the country. Because what are the exporters actually doing? They're getting rid of stuff so they can import as much real money as they can, so they can restart a money economy, because their currency is dead. So they have to trade their stuff for real money from somewhere outside the country. So all these economic imbalances, they're working to rebalance themselves. It's painful, but yeah, the only thing America can do is just default on its debt, go back to a gold standard. Everyone who is relying on promises is gonna get stiffed, because there's no magic here.
Yeah, Tricky Dicky, thank you for your super chat. Mario, I've noticed prices rising in the UK, particularly food. Have you seen this as well? Well, to be honest with you, my wife has been going mostly to do the food shopping, and she always brings back, the receipt, and we go through it. And yeah, I have noticed that it's gone up a bit. I would say about 15%. She goes usually once a week, maybe once every 10 days. And I think for us, it's like 120 to, it used to be up between 100 to 120 pounds, the weekly shopping. Now it's up to maybe like 140. So I have noticed, and I have noticed as well, the packaging is shrinking for sweets, for minstrels. I don't know if you Rafi probably doesn't know minstrels. It's like M&Ms, but it used to be a lot bigger, the bag, and you used to get quite a bit of minstrels. Now the bag is still the similar size, but there's very few sweets in there. We're seeing also, shrinkflation. One thing that I've noticed they've been able to keep quite steady here is the price of gas, or as we call it in the UK, petrol. I've noticed, for example, diesel. My car is a diesel car. It's been around £1.30 for diesel. I think that's per liter, if I'm not mistaken.
Are people driving more in the UK now, or is it still just?
Yeah, there is a lot more traffic now. Last year when we had the first lockdown, it was really dead. But when I went yesterday to the coin dealer, oh yeah, it was there's not as much traffic as there used to be, which is nice in a way. But yeah, people are driving less. But we also have taxes going up. Local taxes have gone up quite a bit. They've gone up. There's a London tax that we pay, and there's the local council tax. The Greater London tax has gone up by 9.5%. The other one has gone up by about 3%. And they tell us that the CPI has only gone up by 0.7 year on year, which is a big fat lie, I would say. What about in Israel? Have you noticed food prices going up?
Yeah, my wife does the shopping, but I have noticed it. Especially after they kept prices down for Passover, because Passover is the big shopping holiday, especially for food, because you have a Seder and all the family comes together and stuff. But yeah, prices have gone up. I don't think it's been quite 15%, but yeah, it's happening. It's happening. I
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah. What else? Forgot now. Let's see. I've got another story here that I thought was interesting, and this is I thought this was interesting because it's a guy. He's very mainstream. He was, I think he was. Here you go. He was chief economist of the IMF. So it's from The Guardian. I know it's a very left-leaning paper, but I thought the article was interesting. The US dollar's hegemony is looking fragile. Kenneth Rogoff, he's a uber Keynesian economist. So he says the modernization of China's exchange rate system could deal the currency a painful blow. So he's talking about the fact that China is moving more and more towards like a convertible renminbi or yuan, and he thinks that could hurt the dollar quite a bit in terms of being a reserve asset, because he says that roughly 2/3 of the world GDP, like countries in Asia especially, they peg their currency to the dollar. So he thinks that if China continues to liberate its FX market, we could see, the dollar hegemony, as he calls, look fragile. And I agree with him on that. I don't agree with him on a lot of other things. He's the kind of guy who thinks that he's a Keynesian. So, anything on China that you've seen, Rafi,
Yeah,
that you think could be interesting?
Yeah, I think Peter Schiff was talking about this in his last podcast, that consumer prices in China, or producer prices in China maybe, have been going up really fast. But if producer prices in China are going up fast, then the cost of imports to the US are going to go up even faster. I mean, I'm not so sure that once the dollar hegemony dies, that the renminbi is really going to take over, because once I believe, at least once the dollar dies, that I don't think anyone's going to want to take any paper currency. Like, who's going to trust the Chinese Communist Party to suddenly be be just and equitable with their currency? They're gonna inflate, just like all humans in charge of currency monopolies want to inflate. I mean, once the money substitute of the dollar is no longer a money substitute, people are just going to go back to gold and silver directly, and there's going to be no government currency that's going to be trusted.
I agree, and I was thinking about that this afternoon as well before the live stream, because the main competitor for the paper dollar or the petrodollar are not other currencies, fiat currencies. It's gold and silver. So I think if you have a multipolar currency, reserve currency system, they won't last. The system will be so unstable that they will need to use gold or silver to really back the system. The dollar, I think, up until 1971, it was quite strong because it was as good as gold. You could redeem, countries could redeem their $35 for an ounce of gold, and but then of course that promise was diluted and then reneged upon by Nixon. But the dollar still had a lot of political capital, so to speak, and I think all that capital is pretty much spent now. It's like let's say someone who wins the lottery, and then after 5-10 years they run out of all the money. I think that's what happened to the US, and I think we're in the last stages of the US dollar, people losing faith and confidence in the US dollar. So this is the article, I think it was from today. China's digital yuan comes with an expiration date. Is that a currency that I will want to put my savings in? No. With an
No.
expiration date. I mean, that's crazy.
This is just it's all just getting to be more sophisticated and weird forms of thievery. I mean, it's that's all this is. I mean, there's a very simple solution to all this. Just use gold and silver as money and forget all these big terms of currencies and reserve status and blah blah blah. I mean, this is all just macroeconomic nonsense that has been built up in our heads for decades and decades. I mean, it's very simple what has to happen. Just have a gold-backed money substitute and stop printing it.
Yeah. How do you think people are going to wake up to that, though? Because you and I and the viewers here and a lot of people in the alternative know that. But do you think it's going to be as a result of a huge crisis and people are going to start asking questions?
It's simple. It's not like they're going to think of it and then they're going to like. There's not going to be like a central plan that says, okay, let's do this. Maybe it will be, but what's going to happen is people are going to realize that the only thing you can really buy things with, they're hungry, they want food. What do you need to buy it with? You need gold and silver. Okay, I'm going to get that. I mean, the free market works from the bottom up. It doesn't work from the top down. So it's not like people will come to this academic realization of some monetary theory they've been studying in school from some textbook. They're going to see what is retaining its value and what is working. And they will see, just like in every hyperinflationary economy that's ever existed, the price of gold and silver go to infinity. They're going to say, I'm going to take that and I'm going to buy some food. And from there, it'll go. And the only question is how much will governments be able to interfere in that process? Just like they interfered in the Great Depression and made it really bad. Hopefully they have no resources left and the world can just organize itself from the bottom up and rebuild. And if they just stay out of it, it would probably take about a year, maybe two.
If someone is asking here what the situation in Israel is at the moment, I think last time we spoke about the lockdowns and all the green cards is still just as bad, is it?
Well, I live in the Golan. My strategy basically in life and through all this is just duck out of the way and let the idiots do what they want to do and just try not to attract too much attention. But like this happened and now I have to speak out because if I don't speak out now, what's the point of me being on this earth? I mean, I'm sick. I'm sick of what's happening here. We're leading the totalitarian march to segregation. We're handing out green passes to people. I don't. The good thing is I don't think that most private business owners are serious about it, and they'll just say, "Do you have a green pass?" You'll say, "Sure." They'll say, "Okay, whatever." Unless they're they've got some goose stepping Gestapo on their backs. I don't know, but
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, we're headed. It looks like the Jews are imposing a Nazi-like. I'm not saying we're there yet. We're not as bad at that level yet, but we're definitely going in that direction of a Nazi-like regime in this country, and it's scary.
And it seems like the UK is going down the same road, and also the US. And it's not surprising that I've read stories or articles from the mainstream in the last week or two that they're thinking of allowing us to travel from the middle of May. But there will be a limited amount of countries that we'll be able to go to. And one of them is Israel, and the other one is the US. I know there are states in the US that are more free than others, and they're almost back to normal. But at the same time, I think the government there in DC, the government in DC is falling on the same path as Israel and the UK. Here in the UK as well. I mean, I've been saying since right off the bat last year that this was like the energy non-crisis from the 1970s. It's it's an engineered situation, the way I feel it. I'll use words like situation because I don't want to be censored. And unfortunately, the mainstream media, the press, television, newspapers, everyone is so bought and paid for that it's really hard to come out and be outside the box. If you ask questions, they censor you. So I've tried to focus more on just helping people financially, because if you have some kind of financial freedom, yes, you can get along. What's the point of standing up and trying to fight these people if they're gonna crush you? That might sound a little bit not very patriotic, but I think the best way really to fight them is through how maybe you can talk about how Rothbard talked about hyperinflation, that it's actually a way to fight theft by the state, and I think that's the way to do it.
I've mentioned this before, that hyperinflation, it is a tragedy, but only for people who have no money. They only have money substitutes. But if you have money, hyperinflation is not going to be great for you. I mean, you'll still have to, get out of the crowds, and society's going to be unstable, but you'll get through it if you have real money. So it's just the people rejecting the money substitute and saying, we're not going to let you print this anymore. And if you try to print it, it's not going to do anything for you. So it's like the economic immune system activating and destroying the virus, the pandemic, really. This whole pandemic, it's really a pandemic of money substitutes.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
My hope is that, because I was an adult back in the 80s and already, and I remember the fall of the Soviet Union. It was very sudden. I think it started out really in East Germany. People started jumping the wall, and then the guards stood down, and then the whole Eastern Bloc, or the Warsaw Pact, which was the Soviet Union and its satellite states, its sphere of influence, that just collapsed, and it disintegrated overnight. It went bust. The Soviet Union, they couldn't pay the military anymore. So my hope is that that's what happens, not just to the United States, the federal government. And I'm not trying to, say that I'd be happy to see that happen, but I think it's inevitable because of all the debt. But the collapse now would not just be the United States. It would be the United States. It would be like the NATO collapse. That's the equivalent, because NATO really should have been dissolved after the Warsaw Pact collapsed in the early 90s. And that's what I think it was James Baker, who was the Secretary of State under George Bush Sr. He promised the Russians that they would do away with NATO, but they didn't put it on paper. So a government, a politician's promise is as good as nothing. So I think that's what's going to happen. NATO is just going to uh, disintegrate. Hopefully, the dollar and the euro, the pound, that's all gonna go, and it's not gonna be
Yeah.
nice because it wasn't nice in Russia after that happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was nicer than communism.
No,
But
but the
yeah,
aftermath was very tough for people
yeah,
who had a pretty comfortable life under the communist system.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, there's nothing we can do to stop it. This is an inevitability of history. This sort of reorganization happens every few generations. We are just in the biggest one ever. So all we can't stop it. All we can do is gather our forces and speak out to people who can see it, and help protect them and grow the numbers of people. We want as many responsible people as we can get to own real money, so that the power of economic redistribution will be mostly in their hands and not in the people that don't have any real money because they think it's stupid.
Yeah, and the other thing about real money, yes, and having money, yes, that is good, but also learning about how the monetary system works. That they want you, they put the peer pressure on you. They want you to live beyond your means. They want you to take credit card debt. They want you to like take a big mortgage to buy that big house. They want you to buy the brand new car every 3 years. So I think people need to change their mentality towards that, and my wife and I have changed that. But for the last really 10 years or so, we've been already doing that. So I guess we're a little bit ahead of our time, and I recommend that as well because yes, money is nice and everything, but also your paradigm. You got to shift your paradigm, the way of thinking.
Yeah, this actually goes back to something I watched. I think it was your most popular video on diabetes and the way you changed your diet. I mean, I never had anything close to diabetes, but I changed my diet when I was listening to a Lou Rockwell podcast or something, and they were talking about the food pyramid. And then I'm thinking like the whole approach to diabetes of the Western world is very similar to their approach with debt, right?
Yeah.
The problem is you have too much sugar, and many pancreases can't handle that. So the solution is not to lower your sugar intake or your carb intake or your bread intake. It's to maintain your 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates a day and just take a bunch of drugs for the rest of your life. So
Mm.
it's the same thing with debt and money. How do you deal with debt? You just buy more stuff and you make yourself feel better, and you just keep adding the debt and then lowering interest rates to make it bearable. And you keep doing that and doing that and doing that more and more and more until you collapse and die. It's the same
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah. So here, yeah, I think I've got 240,000 views on that video. So that yeah, I never expected that to happen. So here, let me just share it here with people. This is actually from the studio, so it's gonna look like you won't recognize this. This is from the YouTube studio. So there you go. How I reverse type 2 diabetes. That was from I think August 9th, 2017. So you can search that and watch that video if you want. But yeah, it's like yeah, if you look at that as well, like the whole all of our institutions, our learning institutions, our medical institutions, our financial institutions, everything seems to be set up to hurt the general public, and make a fortune for those who benefit from it. They're not there trying to serve you, like the medical or the medicine, industrial complex, if you want to call it. What they want to do is sell you loads of drugs. The maybe the educational system, they want you to just like take on a lot of debt to pay them a lot of money to go study at their institutions. And then the finance part, they want you to risk all your money, leverage yourself so they can get the fees. It all seems to be screwed up, and so that's why I think people yeah, unfortunately, you can't trust the people who are supposed to be the experts in any field nowadays, I think. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, expert. What Richard Feynman, the physicist, he said that science can be defined as the belief in the ignorance of experts, because science is a method. Science is a method for obtaining information through testing and hypotheses, and not being full of yourself and thinking that you know everything. That's what it is, and the fact that I don't know if I told you this, but I noticed something that's been bothering me a lot this past year, and I only noticed it maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, that people have stopped saying science and they've started saying the science, and they've put like a definite article in front of it in a capital letter, and it's like this thing that you have to follow like a religion. You can't turn science into a religion. This whole thing is, everything is the opposite of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like here in the UK, it's a lot of times when they have articles in the papers about the Bank of England, and you start reading it, and they just call it in the article, they say the bank. They don't say the Bank of England. It's almost just like the only bank.
Mm.
Yeah. So Super Seamster Suing, thank you for your super chat. He says buy silver to protect your wealth. I agree. And you don't even, yeah, you exchange fiat for silver. Yeah. And I think Rafi, I think today as well, we spoke about how the premiums are still so high for gold as well.
Mhm.
So it looks like people people who have silver, people who know what's happening in the monetary system, they don't want to give away their gold and silver if they don't have to. And I think that's why the bullion banks and places like the Perth Mint and even Kitco are having trouble. And people are now starting to question about the synthetic market. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. So the synthetic market, I mean, this is an issue that John Adams out of Australia has really taken it upon himself, and I'm proud of him. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's like a bull. He's like a terrier, isn't he? They must
Yeah.
hate him at the Perth
Yeah,
Mint.
he's like a pit bull. He came
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, and he started just taking these things down. I mean, but what you have really is you have these synthetic products, which are just they're just ways to track the silver price. They're not silver. So just like any fractional reserve system, you get money by selling promises and then not having to deliver on them, so you pocket the difference, which is the same thing as the government printing money, selling promises and pocketing the difference. It's all the same stuff. It's just it's fractional reserve systems inside fractional reserve systems inside other fractional reserve systems, and they're all the same thing. So I mean, the operations at Kitco and Perth, I mean, I made a mistake in promoting the Perth Mint to my subscribers, but I got everyone out of it when they sold it to Goldman Sachs. And the other ETF that we're in now is OUNZ. I can't even vouch for the soundness of that one. I don't know. I mean, the best thing you can do is have the coins with you, or if it's gold in a storage service, because I wouldn't put that in my house. But these unallocated accounts, once you have people that are trying to convert these promises into real physical, then these operations have to get the silver from somewhere, and they seem to not be able to. And delivery times are getting longer and longer. And this is affecting the COMEX, I think. The COMEX in London, I mean, those are the generals of the scam. At Kitco in Perth and Zurich, those are like the lieutenants. So we started with Silver Squeeze in early February, and that was like the first shot. So now we're going into a different battle with the unallocated, which is basically like a gold or silver ETF. And once we've drained those, then we have a better chance of attacking London and the COMEX, which are the centers of all the corruption of this. And once we take down all the paper market, then the true supply of gold versus paper is revealed, and that's when money substitutes collapse.
Yeah, I mean they run the paper or bullion market bank interbank. They call it the interbank, and it's traded as foreign exchange. The symbol for gold is in dollars XAU USD, and pounds XAU GBP, and they
Mhm.
use the same kind of fractional reserve mentality and leverage that they use for the fiat currencies with gold. And that's why they don't see it as a problem, even though it is a problem, because they're actually selling gold that they don't have. And I would say even their fiat currency system will implode, because the FX market is just another Ponzi scheme. And it's no wonder that it's run out of London. Some people think that New York is the biggest foreign exchange market, but it's London. And why? Well, because there's no limit to how much you can leverage in London or hypothecate. And I think in New York, it's about 2 or 3 times. Here, you can do as many times as you want.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Anything else you'd want to tell the viewers? It has been frustrating, the gold and silver paper market since August last year. Do you think we're near a bottom? I mean, I think about a week ago, I did a video about this double bottom that I saw, in gold from the beginning of March. We're at the bottom at 1675, and end of March at the same level. And it looks like last week we tried to break through 1775, came back a little bit late last week. So how do you see the paper prices? I know we shouldn't be too much concerned about it, but people still worry.
Yeah. Look, we could. We've been in a very long correction. Corrections don't last forever. When you feel despair, when people feel despair, that means the more despair you feel, the more worry you feel, the closer we are. That's how it always is. But yeah, we're seeing these unallocated accounts go dry. We're seeing more real physical pressure on the physical markets. The paper markets will respond. But when I think about it more and more, I just get this feeling that one day, after a weekend or something, we're going to wake up and gold is just the dollar price of gold is just going to go up like $500, $1,000, or whatever it is in like a day, and then people are going to be like, "What is going on?" And then there's going to be a rush to physical, and the people that don't have it are not going to be able to get any. And it's going to be very quick. I mean, it's not going to be a slow process. You have to be prepared for this. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but this whole thing is gonna snap, and it's gonna be very quick.
Yeah, because I think we're already seeing signs of this. It's getting harder and harder to get gold and silver. Yeah, you can buy gold and silver, but the premiums are so high, and it's putting a lot of people off. And I think it shouldn't. Personally, it's not putting me off. I'm exchanging. If I have spare
Mhm.
fiat currency, I'm trying to exchange as much as I can. Of course, I'm not getting out of the fiat currency system 100%, because I still need a float to survive in the system, to pay my bills and to do other things.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you're fortunate enough, it's the only way out. Bob Hunter says, wolves are the governments and the hens are the citizens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how it is.
Let's see. SK, Bitcoin is backed by nothing. So how is it different than fiat money? Do you want to answer that?
That's a good one. Okay. So first of all, again, we have to go back to the fact that there is no fiat money. There are only gold substitutes. So what is Bitcoin? Why does it have any value? When it started, it became exchangeable for dollars, and people have a general idea of how much a dollar can get you because it's a gold substitute. So yeah, so Bitcoin is really a dollar substitute. That's what gives it its value. Or you could say it's a technology for the transfer of dollars. But when hyperinflation hits, right? When hyperinflation hits and the dollar is no longer worth anything, do you think anyone is going to accept your Bitcoin for real money? Or do you think they're going to say, no, I'd rather have the gold and you have this digital nothing? That it seems pretty clear to me Bitcoin is going to be abandoned. There's nothing there. This is just one of the, I mean, there's always a fad. There's always some kind of fad. And 1600s, it was tulips. Now everyone's into Bitcoin because it's digital and it's this new thing. It's not. It's the same thing that humans do every time they get into something new and they think it's the new thing. And it's the same old thing because human nature never changes. There's nothing going on here.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it could go higher Bitcoin. I mean, I'm involved in some of the altcoins because I publish my videos on Hive, Steemit, DTube, and Library. And I've actually, those have gone up quite a bit. So I'm actually making a decent income in fiat currencies from this, but I'm not going out and selling my gold or silver.
Good, yeah. I own
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin SV also. I own some
Yeah,
Bitcoin SV because somebody
but
paid me Bitcoin SV, so I figured I'd keep it. But the
yeah,
thing is, if you want to speculate in Bitcoin, do it. It's fine.
yeah,
Put a few quarters in the slot, have some fun. It's crazy. We may as well, but don't make a mistake in thinking that it's money and putting all your wealth into it. If you do that, you deserve to be out of this game. Don't do that.
Thank you, SK. Thank you again for the other super chat. He says, thank you both. Yeah, the other thing as well, some people, I've seen comments, there's a lot of people, actually, I have a lot of people in the crypto space who follow me because I talk a lot about sound money, I criticize the fiat currency system. And I think they all agree with me on that. But sometimes I have comments from people saying, oh, you're too obsessed with gold. But I'm not, I'm obsessed with honest weights and measures. That's what I'm obsessed with. You can't, when I see, like, if I was outside and someone, mugged an old lady, I'd try to run after that person and stop him. And so I can't stop trying to warn people that that's what's happening to them. Governments are mugging us through inflation and the central banks, and the only antidote to that is to if you are fortunate enough to have saved some wealth in your life, the only antidote is to park those assets in gold and silver, not in the fiat currency, because that's akin to having your wallet sticking out in a busy road full of gangsters. So, all right. Yeah, we're gonna call it a night. We've been over an hour. That's how long we usually take. Any final words, Rafi?
Just good luck out there. This is a crazy world. I can't believe the kind of world that we live in right now. I never thought it would get this insane. But it's coming. It's going to come to an end, and just make sure you have the resources you need when that happens.
Rich Mountains, thank you for the super chat. He says, I purchased 1,000 Morgans with Bitcoin last year. Convert your cryptocurrency to silver. I think you mean silver, not SLV. Thank you again, Super Seamster. Yeah, my final words are that you need to keep your head down. Yeah, and the other thing is that it's not for me, who has read about hyperinflations and collapse of countries, is that it always gets very draconian. The powers that become very authoritarian. So I think it's not surprising that we're seeing what we're seeing, not only in Israel, but in the US and Europe, everywhere else. This draconian, these lockdowns, this is just a symptom of the collapse of the system. They tell us it's because of something out there. I think it's more to do with the money. So with that, I'm going to wish everyone a great rest of the weekend and a great coming week. And Rafi, thank you again. for being with us, and hopefully you come back on the channel.
Definitely. Okay. I got to go to sleep.
All right. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.